The following podcast is a Dear Media production.
What's up, guys? And welcome back to Sunday Sports Club Podcast, a podcast all about sports told by a woman. And that woman is me. Hi, guys. I'm Allison Cooch. And today I'm joined by two special people. We have Adams and Chad Mumm. They are the hosts of the Vanity Index podcast. Excited to have you guys. Okay, so I guess we can start with the first most important question. What exactly is Vanity Index and why did you name your podcast after it?
It's a good question.
You know what, Wells? I think since I named it, I get to take this one.
Wow, you named it.
So our podcast.
Okay, cool.
I'm responsible for the name. So it, our podcast, when we originally conceived it, was kind of all about the intersection of golf and Hollywood. And, you go back to the early days of Hollywood, all these movie stars, they always loved golf. And throughout the sort of Rat Pack era and the 90s, and even still today, there's a lot of like celebrities who play golf. And Wells and I, somehow have found ourselves, mixing it up with the Hollywood royalty and athletes and things like that. And so we liked the idea of one, the abbreviation Vanity Index podcast abbreviates to VIP, which our show, tends to try to have a lot of VIPs on it. But it's also a golf term. So when you play golf, you have a handicap index. So, you often hear people talking about their handicap or their index or being a scratch golfer. And typically the way it works is it's when you're playing with people who are differing skill levels, if you put all your scores into the system that's run by the USGA, and it gives you your handicap index, which allows like a good player to play a match against a player who is less good, and they get a certain number of strokes per round that kind of evens the playing field. So typically when you are playing a lot of games for money, which is a frequent topic of our show, you want your handicap to be inflated a bit, because you want to get more strokes or you want it to be more equal against a worse player. And that has a term, it's called sandbagging, which means if you're kind of artificially inflating your handicap. But the other opposite thing of that is having what's called a vanity index, which is basically you make your handicap lower, which means it looks like you're a better golfer than you actually are. And so the one industry probably that has the highest quotient of vanity indexes in all of golf is the Hollywood celebrity industry. And so we thought that was a fitting title for our show that was kind of meant to be the intersection of both.
Why do you think that is? Do you think they just want to pretend to be better golfers to like impress other Hollywood celebrities?
Absolutely. Actors and, celebrities are the most egocentric people in the world. And they want to say, yeah, I'm a single digit handicap, even though there's no way they are. It's interesting, though, that we've found, this podcast is all about, sports. We found that a lot of athletes are on the other end of things. They actually are sandbagging a lot because athletes are extremely competitive, do not want to lose, and want to kind of skew the line the other way so to make sure that they do win. We've also found that athletes generally play for a lot more money than like actors will, which is very interesting. So I think it has something to do with their egos for sure.
That actually doesn't surprise me because I'm thinking of famous athletes that are notorious for being interested in golf. This past year, I just went to the Masters, and Josh Allen, for example, who's a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, like I just can't see him putting a lower number and then golfing like not to that lower number. So that kind of makes sense that like celebrities might do it, but professional athletes don't want to adhere to that.
From what I understand, though, Josh is very good at golf. I actually kind of believe Josh's handicap, but there are other quarterbacks which will not be named that are notorious for sandbagging.
You're like, yeah, we don't want to hurt our chances for them coming on the podcast, right? It's super interesting. I mean, just even like the terms, I've never really thought about it. I'm like, oh, like if you have a handicap, clearly like it's just going to be, what your actual handicap is. But it's interesting to think that people might go like the other route, one or the other. I probably would pretend. I would pretend that I'm a better golfer because, I mean, how many times are you actually going to show up to the golf course with the people you're bragging to, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what happens though in our kind of world is you get everybody plays in these celebrity pro-ams together, and they always ask for your hand. They're always net events, so everybody needs an active handicap, and it's hard to get totally called out for either sandbagging or having a vanity index. But it is true, like people end up playing a lot of these tournaments, and so you do have to kind of keep a handicap. And they'll blame all kinds of things for bad performance. The vanity index as well. Oh,
The
the
wind.
my swing was off that day, or I just it was the crowds and whatever. But it's been fun to track it, and as well as was saying, like the athletes do want to win, like aggressively want to win. They're hyper competitive, so you do see it kind of going the other way. And the amount of money games that we hear about is the amount of money that these famous people are playing golf for amongst their friends. I mean, that's like a real thing. It's like a lot of these celebrities, like they will play every single time they play. There's some wager on it, and the athletes are wagering far more than the celebrity actors are.
That doesn't surprise me. I know a few professional athletes, one in particular who I won't name names, but I have heard that when it comes to athletes, just the like wagering on certain things is insane. Not necessarily like when it comes to their own sport, but more so like other sports.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it's goes back. I mean, there's like legendary stories about Michael Jordan's, golf betting, and there's just the whatever it's pitchers. It tends to be you get a lot of quarterbacks and pitchers and kickers that play golf. They got the free time.
Hmm.
Incidentally, we've identified who we think the best famous person golfer is, and that's Marty Fish, the former tennis player. So you get like tennis, some good tennis players out there.
Hockey
But
players are always very good.
yeah, they got that move, but it's like the baseball players, they have a lot of power, but they have a, somewhat of a hard time translating that power into like accuracy. But for whatever reason, it seems to work out for the hockey players and the pitchers. I don't know.
It's super interesting to me. Okay, well, let's take it back a little bit because you guys clearly are very interested in golf. What is the background with both of you? How you got into golf? When you did get into golf, was it like cool at the time? I feel like golf has really had a resurgence lately.
Yeah, and I would say it's probably partially attributed to what Chad does. He's an executive producer for um, Full Swing, which is a golf, documentary on Netflix, and that show is immensely popular. And it's thanks to his hard work. But I grew up in Monterey, Carmel, Pebble Beach area, which is kind of like the home of golf, least on the west coast of the United States. Maybe one of the most famous golf courses, Pebble Beach, is there. And so I grew up playing golf. It was a very like kind of normal thing for me to do. I grew up on a golf course. I played in high school, and I was
Did
an
you play at
okay
Pebble Beach
golfer. But
often?
yeah, I played in tournaments a lot there as a kid. They have a great junior golf program in Monterey. It's now, I think it's national. It's called First Tee. But yeah, I used to play there in Spyglass and Poppy Hills, and it was such a cool. I didn't know how good I had it back then. But then, I went to Nashville. I was a radio host for years, and if you're in radio, you're poor. So I didn't really play golf for years. And then when I got into TV, I moved out to Los Angeles. I made a little more money, and all of a sudden, you could play 12 months out of the year. And so I kind of dove back into it. And, as someone who is on kind of like a bad reality TV show every year, I get invited to all these kind of like celebrity golf tournament events. And so I really, really started like really trying to get good. And that was kind of the intersection of when I joined a club, of which, our handsome, my handsome co-host Chad Mumm is a member at, and we started hanging out and talking. We had made a TV show together. And then all of a sudden kind of this podcast was built. But Chad's background in golf is different, and he's a much more accomplished golfer than I am.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, I grew up a military brat, so I was moving around a lot as a kid. And, my dad was in the Air Force, and there's a joke that's not much of a joke. When they build a new Air Force base, they build the runway, then they build the golf course, then they build the rest of the base. So, the military and golf has like a whole thing. And, Tiger Woods famously grew up playing a military golf course and, down in San Diego. So golf was always kind of a part of our family. My grandfather played, who was also in the Air Force. My dad played. And so for me, whenever I would move as a kid, we'd move every kind of 3 to 4 years. Golf was like the one place that kind of felt consistent. So I'd get to a new town, I'd go to a new school, but like I'd show up at the golf course and I felt at home, and you'd walk into the pro shop at any golf course and you kind of immediately felt like you're around your people. And that's one of the special things about the game. You could be like a 12-year-old and then be like hanging out with 60-year-olds, and like we're all just trying to get better at golf, and there's just like such a specific golf culture. And so when my dad retired, we moved to Georgia, and I played competitive junior golf, and had aspirations of being on the PGA Tour one day. That those hopes and dreams were dashed when I played against actually a guy who's currently on the PGA Tour, a major winning golfer named Brian Harmon. We were in the same tournament together, and I played like the best round I could have played. He beat me by 10 shots, and I was like, all right, I think it's over for me, those dreams. But I kept playing golf and got into the media industry and lived in New York, and kind of like Wells, like tried to play as much as I could in New York City. I mean, I'd be like getting on the Long Island Railroad with my golf bag at like 5 a.m. on Saturday to take the train out to Long Island to play some public golf course. And, but then moving to LA when I started doing more film and TV producing, you can play year round. And so I did the same thing. I joined a private club. Wells is a member. We made a show together. And as in the sort of backdrop of all of that, once I moved to LA 10 years ago, I started working on what would become Full Swing. And so, I've produced like more than 50 TV shows, mostly nonfiction and docs and reality and things like that. But this golf show is sort of my baby. And so I worked on it for 9 years before kind of it all came together. And in 2019, I convinced the PGA Tour finally to kind of sign over the rights to make the show. And, 3 years later, we came out on Netflix. And I think I don't think anybody thought that it was going to be as big of a hit as it was. And, it was sort of right up there with Drive to Survive in terms of like these Netflix sports docs that really break through. And especially for your listeners and viewers, I feel like Full Swing really, really worked for like women fans too. And I heard so many anecdotal stories about like, oh, my wife is into golf or my girlfriend's into golf now because we watched Full Swing together. And it's like, I had it on and all of a sudden, my wife's like sitting there next to me, like rooting for Joel Damon or crying when Rory wins sinks the winning putt. And we really tried to, with that show, like include a lot of the wives and girlfriends. And I think golf is a really great backdrop for dramatic storytelling. And because there's no team, you're kind of an individual in the sport. And so there's so much individual pressure. And then it's like the families and caddies and those relationships just are super complex and evolved. And you're sitting there like rooting on someone who is your spouse or your best friend, and you're standing there holding their bag, but you can't hit the shots for them. And so it just makes for like great human drama. And I found the golfers to be like really interesting characters in a way that maybe even I wasn't expecting. I kind of expected to find a lot of robots out there, and they're not. Like they're great characters. So I've been lucky to do that. And so Wells and I started this podcast at the beginning of the year, and it's been super fun since we started.
Yeah, I love that. First and foremost, congratulations, because I mean, it's a super successful show. I have to say that as somebody who has kind of taken followers behind the scenes of the NFL, it's interesting to see the female population being more interested at the big picture stories, and that makes them like more interested in the sport itself. They want to know who is their wife, what is their wife doing, what is their story, what storytelling ability do they have, or like what makes them different from just like throwing on a hat and swinging a club. But you said that this show has been in the works for over 9 years, and now I feel like there's this huge explosion with golf. What do you think has contributed to like the sudden like regain of interest in golf?
I think it's a lot of things. I think COVID really accelerated golf's growth because it was one of the few things you could do. It was like, if everyone's working from home, you got a lot more free time. Golf is a great way to suck up a lot of free time. It was something you do outside. So it's, even like going and
a
playing
lot of wives are probably listening like, yeah, golf does take up a lot of time.
Yeah. It does. So you saw this like big boom during COVID where people, who were working from home all of a sudden, had more time to golf. I think another piece of it was there was a lot more forms of golf that are a lot more accessible now. So I'd actually give a lot of credit to Topgolf, for creating this kind of cultural thing where like it became like a date night thing. Now, I don't think people are going to Topgolf like every night or every week, but it's definitely like, instead of going bowling or to a movie, like let's go to Topgolf, let's dress up cute and like go on a date night and bring some friends, have a couple drinks, eat some bar food, and like hit some golf balls. And so that's a really like low stakes way to kind of get a golf club in your hands and make it gamified and have some fun. Simulators now are popping up. So if you're in New York City, there's a place called 5-Iron Golf, which started out when I lived there. It was like probably 2012. I think the first one opened. Now there's, I think, maybe like 10 in New York City. And that's another just thing to do, instead of going bowling. So I think it's partly that. And I also think that golf has benefited a lot from famous people playing it and becoming obsessed. I think that's been a huge reason why the stigma around golf being just kind of for like old white rich guys has gone away, because famous people have always played. We started the podcast talking about it. I mean, our home club, like Bing Crosby was a member, and like Frank Sinatra, and there's just all these legendary stories about all these famous people who golf. But now they're golfing and they're posting about it on Instagram, and that's like a new thing. And so, if you're a casual sports fan and you have this preconceived notion about golf in your head, but now you see Saquon Barkley, who's like, hey, all I want to do when I'm not playing football is golf. And by the way, he like looks great because there's all these cool brands that now make cool golf clothes, and it's not as stuffy. And, you've got rappers playing golf and musicians and actors. And I think all that stuff showing up in social media. Golf's also a perfect sport for social media content because it's this mix of like action and things happen, but also there's a lot of space for conversation and humor and character building and things like that. So I think it's not one thing. I like to think Full Swing had a bit of an impact on that. He definitely brought like pro golf, into people's living rooms in a real way. And I think, again, did a pretty good job of like getting rid of some of the stigma around pro golfers being just like boring robots or being just kind of like rich country club kids. Cause not a lot of the people in Full Swing like grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth. I mean, most of those pro golfers are like pretty middle class or like less, and really had to work their ass off. Like the spoiled kids like don't have the drive to make it. So I think that really comes across in Full Swing too. So, I often talk about golf having its kind of hoops culture moment. And I think it does parallel a little bit like where, over the last 20 years, basketball kind of became part of mainstream culture. It was a lot of that was driven by sort of golf Twitter and Instagram. And all of a sudden basketball wasn't just a thing you were a fan of. It was like a lifestyle that you could be a part of. And that includes like sneakers and streetwear and hip hop, and all that created this like loud megaphone. And the NBA was like really smart about embracing that and kind of growing on the back of it. Golf is in that same phase, maybe where that hoops culture was probably 15 years ago. But interestingly, it's being driven from like, I think, a much more grassroots, like ground up way. It's not like the league, the PGA Tour sort of engineering it. It's much more kind of consumer driven, which is I think another testament to like what makes the sport great, because there's very few pro sports that people watch on TV that you can also go and do.
Right.
I'd say maybe like tennis is one of them, skiing, but there's not a lot of like skiing races on TV. So golf is a thing that's on TV every single weekend on major national networks. And it's a thing that you can go and do. And so it has this cool mix of like fandom and hobbyist. And it's also like deep enough where like you get into it, if you become obsessed with it, it's kind of all you think about and all you want to do. And these celebrities are just as obsessed as like everyone else, and people see that, and I think it reinforces like, hey, we should go give golf a try.
One of the things about golf that's kind of different from other sports is because it's an individual sport, it allows you to show off like your individuality. And I think a lot of people have been really gravitating to that, especially women, because all of a sudden it became, it was stuffy khakis, a collared starch shirt, and now it's like total fashion. And that's another thing that has come out of like the influencer portion of it, is people getting to kind of show off their flair a little bit. And, I make the joke all the time, like, I might not be able to play good, but I want to look good out there, which adds this like kind of like little extra thing to it. The other thing that I think that helped grow the game a lot is those influencers and those content creators and YouTube, effectively. Like those guys are getting so many eyes on the game, and they're showing a different aspect of it. It's not just the best of the best doing, shooting 20 under in a 4-day tournament. It's these guys playing funny games or playing games on each other, or pranking them on the course and stuff, and kind of showing how, like, the thing about golf is that it is the most fun thing to do when you go out with your friends, you know? And I think a lot of people that had never played golf or don't really know anything about it, they have no concept of that. And then all of a sudden you see it on YouTube and you're like, oh my God, this looks like so much fun. You get to drive around in a golf cart, drink some beers, talk trash to your friends, like, and sometimes hit a good shot. It's like the best thing ever. And then afterwards you go get a hot dog and, have a martini with your boys, and maybe you won some money, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this was the best day ever. And so, yeah, I think YouTube really, really helped kind of show what that was.
I'm going to say emphasize on the sometimes you get a good shot. I grew up one of the stuffy country club kids, and it's crazy because back then I hated golf. My parents belonged to a country club, and they like to have my parents are probably going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, she's exposing us. But my parents signed us up at the country club for swim lessons, and then tennis lessons, and then golf lessons. So at the end of the day, I'd be done at 2 p.m. and my parents would come and pick me back up from the country club. But back then, the only thing that I liked about golf at that time was the fact that I got to drive a golf cart. And it was really just because I was not 16 yet. But now I feel like if I was in the same position I was back then, seeing all these social media stars, influencers, celebrities, athletes going out, having a fun time, I would have glamorized it way more than I did back then, where I dreaded it. But now I feel like it's moving towards being fashionable, being fun. It's something you do with friends. And I mean, you said it, Chad, Top Golf. Like, I love Top Golf, but I can't remember the last time I set foot out onto a golf course. If you guys are anything like me and you don't really want a capsule wardrobe, because I do not want a capsule wardrobe. I don't know what about it. I'm like, I want to try out fun styles. I want to try out polka dots and patterns. I don't know. Maybe that's just like the current phase of life that I'm in. Literally do not want a capsule wardrobe. But I do like to switch up my clothing a lot. And something that I have fallen in love with is Nuuly. So Nuuly is a subscription clothing rental service that's all about helping you have fun and get creative with your style. Renting from Nuuly lets me shift my gears in my wardrobe without a complete overhaul. So like every month I get to rent 6 items from Nuuly's shared closet of thousands of styles for everything that I have going on. It's also great because if you think like, oh, I'm going to a wedding this month and then I'm going on vacation, or oh, I have this a really important business meeting, Nuuly can help out with getting stuff for those events, and you don't have to buy it. You just get to rent it, try it on, wear it, look cute, and then return it. So dressy stuff for occasions, trendy going out clothes, cute dresses, casual tops, jackets, vacation fits, you name it, they have it. So again, Nuuly is a subscription clothing rental service. So for just $98 a month, you get your choice of any 6 styles each month. Let's say it's fall and you want 6 jackets. You could do that, 6 dresses, whatever you have going on. It's totally up to you. And they have thousands of styles from more than 400 brands, and brands that you and I both love. So I'm talking Hill House, For Love and Lemons, Anthropologie, Free People, A Goldie, like so many brands, again, that we love. They have inclusive sizing up to 5X, as well as petite and maternity. You guys, that's a selling feature in and of itself, because maternity, I have jeans that I wore once when I was pregnant, and will I ever wear them again? Maybe. Maybe I won't even know where it's at when I'm pregnant the next time. But I love that they offer so much inclusive sizing, and especially in maternity. And the shipping is fast and free, and returns and professional cleaning in Nuuly's state-of-the-art laundering facility. So like, you don't have to do laundry before you return it. You just wear it, look cute, put it in a box, and ship it back. And then you get to try out some other styles that you're really looking forward to. Nuuly is a great value at $98 a month for any 6 styles. But right now you can get $28 off your first month of Nuuly when you sign up using the code Sunday. Just go to nuuly.com. That's Nuuly with 2 U's, and enter the code Sunday and sign up to get $28 off your first month. That's nuuly.com, Nuuly with 2 U's with code Sunday. Nuuly subscription clothing rental, change your clothes. These days, I'm choosing comfort over style, but that really shouldn't have to be a thing. it should be comfortable and stylish. And that's why I've fallen in love with Vionic. So, Vionic has the best essential styles for everyday wear to get you ready for spring and summer season when it comes to your feet. One of my recent favorite styles, it's so summery, is their Bay. It's a fresh take on nautical style with buttery soft leather uppers and jute detailing. This slip on delivers laid back comfort with a relaxed vibe. And the deconstruction design feels really effortless, while the supportive contoured footbed ensures all day comfort. It's really giving California. It's really giving summer in California. Maybe I'm going on my boat later today. I literally do not have a boat, but you guys get the vibe that I'm going for. So, what sets Vionic apart from other shoes is that every shoe in Vionic is powered by their Vio Motion technology, beauty and well being in every single pair. Vionic is about science that sets you in motion. They even offer a 30-day guarantee so you can wear them, love them, or return them for a full refund within 30 days. And I think that just speaks to like the comfortability that you guys are going to find in these shoes. Again, it is Vionic and they have so many different styles to choose from. I just mentioned loving the Bay, but I also love their Uptown Willa, their Uptown Loafer. They also have a Walk Max, which is a highly technical shoe engineered for walking, but it'll take you from like errands to theme park days really easily. And you know what? When you live in Southern California and you have a pass to a theme park, that actually might come into play every once in a while. So I highly recommend Vionic and I encourage you guys to check them out. If you guys are interested, you can use code Sunday at checkout for 15% off your entire order at www.vionicshoes.com when you log into your account. First time use only. Vionic shoes, wearable well-being for your feet. I have a self-care routine once a week. It's on Sunday, it's in the evening. My husband takes care of bedtime duties from reading her a book and doing bath time while I do my own book and bath time. So I love doing this for myself because I feel like self-care should just be like the norm. I feel like it also sets me off on the right foot ahead of a very busy week. And so I'm really excited to be partnering with Flamingo because it is my go to when it comes to my body hair. You guys have probably seen Flamingo razors in stores or you've seen them online. They are so dang comfortable and they get my legs feeling so buttery smooth. And it's the type of smooth that, like, when I'm laying in bed, my husband's like, wow, your legs feel great. And I'm like, yeah, well, I haven't shaved them in a week, but I used my Flamingo razor. I also have to say, I have been loving their wax strips. Okay. I have used a razor for, years now, but their wax strips I've fallen in love with in the past like 2 years. I like to give myself a wax at home, and they have these little wax strips. They're so easy to use, they don't leave any residue, and they get me smooth, if you know what I'm talking about. And I could not recommend them enough. The thing about Flamingo is that they're different from other razor companies. It's a razor designed for you and the places that you shave. So it has a flexible hinge designed to hug every curve of your body and get those hard to reach areas. The handle is also ergonomically designed for women so that it fits comfortably in your hand. And you can pay as little as $2 per refill, as low as half of what other big brands charge, plus no pink tax. Thank God. When it comes to Flamingo, they have their original razor, which is great for your everyday shave. They have a pubic razor designed for coarser hair and shaving the hard to reach spots, and also their new Moisture Plus razor. And it is the one-step razor that's perfect for women on the go. You guys, this is such a game changer. I always forget to shave under my arms, and all I got to do is I throw this under the sink, get a little wet, and shave, and it's literally as easy as that. So the new Moisture Plus razor, such a game changer. I personally highly recommend Flamingo. I'm such a fan of them. They keep you smooth and refreshed with Flamingo hair removal products made with your body in mind. You guys can get started with an exclusive offer for our listeners, 25% off your first order at shopflamingo.com/SSC. That's shopflamingo.com/SSC. So it feels more like it's it's not the stuffy old white rich guys. It's more just like a sport for everybody. Whoever wants to enjoy themselves, especially outside, like it's a sport for you.
I was the same way. I did tennis camp and golf camp and swimming camp all at the Carmel Valley Ranch, our country club. And I remember it was nerdy to play, like on being on the golf team. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like, I think it's cool to play golf. And I attribute that to all these celebrities and all these athletes being like, yeah, I do this. What? And then everyone's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another sport where, like, the biggest stars, this is all they do in their off season. So just use Josh Allen as an example. Like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Like Peyton Manning's a member at Augusta National. Eli Manning, same thing. These are like sports superhero icons, and when you don't see them in uniform, if you see them on social media, they're most likely have a golf club in their hand. And I think that has such a huge impact. I mean, certainly, like when I was a kid, I loved football and I loved golf, and it was like dorky to be a golf fan until kind of Tiger Woods. That sort of took it into a whole new kind of cultural space. But you never knew about other athletes playing golf. You didn't know. Come to find out, like John Elway loves golf, and all these like quarterbacks and icons of my era. Actually, the first day that I joined our private club in LA, I go to the driving range, and there's only one spot left on the range. And so I'm trying to warm up before my first ever round as a member. And there was Marcus Allen to my right and then Joe Pesci to my left. And I'm like, what have I emerged into? This is like the coolest thing ever. I remember like going home and telling my wife, like, this is the coolest thing ever. And also I got to play golf that day.
Okay, sweetheart.
Yeah, she's like, you're cute. Can you come home now? It's like, no.
Yeah, she's like, it's been 12 hours. Is that like when are you gonna come home? Can you guys spill the tea on who are like the top celebrity golfers then?
Oh, no doubt we can. Yes.
Yeah.
Wells, why don't you go ahead?
Let's see. Marty Fish is, I think, the best one. He's a former tennis player. He was a Davis Cup captain. He has won an insane amount. So there's like this circuit of celebrity golf tournaments, and I play in a couple of them, but like Marty Fish plays in all of them, and I think he won 5 or 6 last year, and these all pay out pretty well. Like if you win, it's it's 6 figures. It's kind of wild. So he's number one. I think that a lot of people would put Tony Romo up there. He is an amazing golfer. He is a guy who's tried to qualify for like the U.S. Open and stuff and gotten really, really close. He plays in the AT&T Pro-Am a lot, which is over in Pebble Beach. And that was one of the first places where I finally realized that golf was cool when I saw like Kevin Costner and Bill Murray playing in these things.
Steph, I'd put Steph in that bucket
Curry's
too.
Very good. I've heard that Rafael Nadal, albeit a terrible swing, is very, very good, which doesn't shock me at all. Aaron Rodgers is very good. Larry Fitzgerald is very good. Derek Lowe, the World Series Boston pitcher, is very good. I mean, there's a lot of them, and they're all like, they're not vanity indexes. They're all like scratch and very, very good.
I'd say like other names, probably would surprise you. So, one of our podcast guests, Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I'd say he's probably the best like actor golfer. At least maybe has the highest potential or has like gone the lowest for celebrities. Bateman's a good golfer. He could be really good if he ever retires from acting. He's just like very focused on his work, but he's got a great golf swing. And yeah, I'd say like that group would probably be the cohort of like best golfers. We had Sean Malto, who's a pro skateboarder, come on the show. He's a stick. Like Sean Malto, you wouldn't think you get a lot of skateboarder or golfer crossovers. He talks about being a kid and like in the skate scene in Kansas City where he grew up, and like he'd have to lie to his friends about like what he was doing in the afternoon. He'd be like, "Oh, I'm just resting," and he was like at the golf course. And now
Very
it's like the fact that he's a good golfer. For sure. They're all jealous. All those skateboarders are jealous of how good he is at golf.
But it's also not different. Like all skateboarding is okay. So hear me out, and I'll tell you why I think it's very, very similar. Okay. Skateboarding is trying something over and over and over and over and over and over again until you get it right, until you perfect it. That's all golf is swinging and trying to get it on plane and through the ball and in the sweet spot. And so it's very similar. And I brought this up when we had Malto on, of like why I think he's so good is he is the most patient golfer I've ever seen. You know, golf is notorious for people breaking clubs over their legs and throwing, you know, rakes into the forest, and, you know, cue up Chad's new movie in Happy Gilmore. But he is so like level-headed and calm. And I think it's because he, you know, his sport is, listen, I don't land every trick, you know, and like it's the same with golf, is you don't make hole-in-ones on every try. And the other thing about Malto that I love is skateboarding. Obviously, yes, it is so much different than golf, especially when it comes to fashion. But Malto, God damn it, if he doesn't pull it off, he looks so freaking cool, but he looks so very Malto, like still looks like a professional skateboarder, but like good on the golf course. And I love that intersection of those two things. I think it's so interesting and so cool.
I'm picturing cargo shorts on a golf course.
It's similar. He wears like baggier fits, but he'd have like, you know, big baggy pleated pants, you know, maybe a mock neck. Like you could see him skating in it, but somehow it's still apply, you know, the rules of golf, private club life still apply, and he kind of fits in between the two of them. And like Wells, for example, Wells is, you know, he looks like he's in the 1950s when he plays golf. You know, he's classic, the wools, the cashmeres, the pleated pants, and it is one of those things we talked about it earlier, but it's a chance for you to build some identity and talk about, you know, show people who you are. And, you know, in our like Zoom culture of like online meetings, you know, people with normal jobs, it's like you don't get a chance to dress up that often in life, you know, and golf is a chance to kind of put on an outfit. And for guys, it might be like the only chance they ever get to put on an outfit. And I think it's also, you know, true for women golfers. It's like you can dress cute, like golf, there's cute stuff now to wear. And so yeah, but Malto does the best.
I feel like
it has come a long way.
The golf fashion it depends on where you're playing golf, correct? I mean, going to Augusta National for the Masters, I was like, okay, this is going to be cute and trendy. I was really excited to like plan together my outfit. But like if I'm going to like this private club that's over by our house, I'm like, okay, I feel like I have to like dress very conservatively, like don't want to show my shoulders. It's so interesting because there is a huge golf etiquette. And that leads me to my next question. Is there any part of golf etiquette or like a golf rule that you guys dislike?
I mean, I think so much of it now has become democratized in that a lot of that etiquette is pretty localized. So you get a pretty wide variance from like golf course to golf course or club to club. And there's definitely stuffy clubs and casual clubs. And actually there's a new brand of super ultra exclusive private clubs that have developed around these like Discovery Land properties where you see a lot of these athletes actually playing on social media, and like there's no rules. Like you can play in flip-flops or no shoes, no shirt. It doesn't really matter. There's tequila stations every 3 holes. It's like a big party. And that, you know, that's like a private club that, I mean, these millions of dollars to join these places, and they're just as exclusive and hard to get into as like the big stuffy ones. I think there's fewer and farther between these old school clubs that kind of like feel like the clubs from Caddyshack or something, where all the rules, everybody has to be prim and proper, and there's all this like stuffy old money. I think golf's boomed enough where it's gotten noticeably younger and cooler, and so people are a little more, you know, a little more open to you know, music on the course, things like that. But the other side of it is I actually think that you know, that's what makes golf cool too. Is like you can go from a casual, no shoes, like drinking a bunch of taking shots, like having a good time, to like a classic place that's 100 years old that has all this history. And there's definitely like a place for that too. And you know, you can feel the old ghosts of golf. I heard that described to me once, and I really love that. And credit to John Buscemi, who's a fashion designer, who told me that phrase. But he said golf has old ghosts more than any other sport, and I think that's really true. And because it's so much of it is built into the sense of place of like these courses and these clubs, and you know, very few other sports have such a wide variance in like the places where you play the sport. You know, maybe like surf breaks and stuff, or skiing mountains, I guess. But like, you know, tennis, the courts are all the same. It's, you know, golf has that variance. And so I think there's definitely room for the super stuffy old school places, more of a pay respect to the old ghosts of those places. But more and more you're seeing a lot more laid back approach. And honestly, golf's become a huge business in the United States. And I think these newer clubs have realized that, like, this generation that's coming in, they are more casual, especially, you know, the millennials and now Gen Z, as they start to pick up golf. It's like they have to find a way to kind of attract that audience. And some people are attracted to the old school and the here's money, like I'm gonna do my thing. But others are attracted to just like, hey, we're gonna go get some exercise. We're gonna be in the sun. We're gonna dress up cute. We're gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
And I do think like there is room for all of it.
And I mean, going off of like the stuffy, old school, like old typical golf, I have to say that growing up in my country club and other country clubs that I had visited, there was always a men's grill, but there was never a women's grill. So I feel like it's in the past has been a very male dominated sport. So I'm interested to hear from both of you on how you think that golf has evolved now in terms of supporting women golfers and also people who want to watch golf that are women.
Well, I can take this because I play in a pro-am with the LPGA women. And so I've played now with professional men. I've done a Champions Tour, and I've played with professional women. And like, you don't understand how good these women are. Like, it's insane how freaking talented they are. And, you know, the stereotype of them not hitting the ball as far is kind of real. They're shorter and, you know, Scotty Scheffler's like 6'3", and, you know, these guys are big guys. But it doesn't matter. Like, they are so laser precise. And, you know, I have a big following of females because of the television show that I'm on. It's primarily my demo. So I go and play in these things. And I think what I hope for the most is that men are going to watch men golf stuff, but I want more women to be supporting the women at the LPGA because I'm out there and I think it's amazing what they're doing. We need to get like more eyes on them. And one of the things that I think that would help immensely is if they had a tournament where the PGA and the LPGA played together and you just put the girls up maybe a tee box or two, and then all of a sudden it's level playing field because those girls aren't going to put the rough up like crazy. Those girls never miss fairways. They hit greens and fairways constantly, whereas the boys are just spraying balls left and right and kind of bomb and gouge. And I think that would change a lot of, you know, kind of the perception that it's just like this male driven thing. It's not. Like, the LPGA is, first of all, worldwide, huge in Asia, huge in Europe. And I just think that we need to get more eyes on it. And then all of a sudden it's going to, the kind of stereotype of like women are all bad at golf thing will start to dissolve away, and women are slow and all that kind of stuff. And once that happens, then I think that golf will be in a much healthier place. And I think we're on the right, the right track. Like, they did the match not too long ago, which was Chad, did you do that? Were you in charge of the match when they had?
I was not, no.
Okay, sorry.
It was good. They had women and men playing together.
Yeah, and it was great. And it was like, this is so good to see, and obviously very, very helpful to shine more light and more eyes on the female golfer out there. The other thing about female golfing, my wife doesn't play golf, but she loves to go to the country club and dress up and drink rosé on the balcony. And I have this thing, we have this deal that I can go play golf when I want to go play golf. But I have to text her when I'm on 16, and then she puts on her cute little, country club outfit and comes out, and then she's always there with a glass of Chardonnay or a glass of rosé as I come in on 18, and then we sit down and have a lovely lunch, and it usually turns into drinks and dinner. And I've worked really, really hard to have her perception of this thing that I love also be something that she loves. And I think that that's a thing that we probably need to do a better job of as men, is being more inclusive to women with the whole golf thing. Because I think what ladies are upset about is that we're gone for 5 hours and then we come home drunk and, whatever. But if you include them, then all of a sudden it changes and it's just a party out in a beautiful park, effectively.
If you guys follow me on any forms of social media, I place an emphasis on the things that I have going into my body. And the number one thing I'm looking at are my supplements, where I'm getting them and what is the backstory and what type of supplements do I need and this and that. And I have fallen in love with Symbiotica. I first discovered them a few years ago when I was living in Cleveland, and I actually listened to the starter of Symbiotica on a different podcast, and I fell in love with the story behind it and all the different products. And now I'm such a fan of Symbiotica that I have things on auto ship and I take it every single morning whenever I have my coffee. I'm just such a fan of them. When I first discovered Symbiotica, I actually went onto their website and they have a little quiz you can take. And as somebody who didn't know like what supplements to take, when to take them, I did this little quiz and I was hooked from there on out. Taking Symbiotica supplements is one of the easiest ways I've found to stay consistent with my health goals, even during a busy summer. They have all of their packets taste really good and they're different flavors. And so I actually look forward to taking them every single morning because like they're not just pills, they're liposomal. So it's also going to be digested and faster absorbed into your body. A few supplements that I have been taking, number one, they're NMN. I take that every single day religiously. I have my husband taking it. I have my friends taking it. Oh my gosh, it's such a game changer. If you guys don't know what NMN is, I highly recommend doing some research, but I only get it from Symbiotica. Another one that is a recent favorite is their magnesium L-threonate. So some of the benefits of this is that it enhances focus and reduces brain fog, balances mood, it's calming, it helps support stress management, helps support a restful sleep. If you're busy and on the go, if you're a mom, if you're a working mom, this is something that I cannot recommend enough to add into your routine. And the bonus is that it's liposomal delivery, like I mentioned earlier. So faster nutrient absorption, and the flavor is vanilla cream. Like, I look forward to taking that every single day. As you guys can tell, I'm such a fan of Symbiotica. And if you are interested, you can go to symbiotica.com/Sunday today to get 20% off plus free shipping. That's symbiotica.com/Sunday to get 20% off plus free shipping. If you guys have been following me on social media for a while, you know I love my drinks. Like any type of drink. I actually used to have a little series on social media that I would like try out a new drink every week and I would rate it like 1 to 10 and it would kind of just be all over the place. All that being said, I just love drinks, and a drink that I have been a recent fan of is called Simply Pop. So Simply has launched a new prebiotic soda, Simply Pop, which is the new juicy soda. There are 5 flavors. They have pineapple mango, lime, strawberry, citrus punch, and fruit punch. Simply Pop is a new fruit-forward bevy of prebiotic sodas made with 6 grams of prebiotic fiber to support gut health and vitamin C and zinc to support immune function, which you guys, if you've been following me on social media, know that I have some problems with my gut health and I'm always traveling. So anything to support my immune function, I'm a fan of. That's why Simply Pop contains the same real fruit flavors you know and love, and no added sugar makes for a soda that even a juice would drink. My favorite flavor is the pineapple mango. I just feel like it's so fresh and juicy and it's perfect for summer. And whenever I'm drinking it, I feel like I'm doing something for my body, both immune system and my gut health. And the best part is that, again, no added sugar. So I just feel like you can't beat something like that. I personally highly recommend this, whether you're on the go, you wake up and you want something juicy, or, just an outdoor summer beverage by the pool. Why not? So if you guys are interested in trying out Simply Pop, I'm a huge fan of it. I would recommend heading over to cokeurl.com/simplypop to find out where you can try Simply Pop. My husband Isaac played football for a lot of different teams. I still remember how we'd be on pins and needles waiting to find out if we'd be back for a second year at the end of each first year. Well, with Discover Cashback Match at the end of your first year, you'll have a pretty good idea of what's in store for you. That's because Discover will automatically double the cashback you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year. And there's no limit to how much Discover will match. So feel confident knowing that you could use that towards the things you need, because you absolutely deserve a refreshingly great experience with your credit card. And here's something else I just found out about. Discover is accepted at 99% of the places that take credit cards nationwide. That percentage is based on the February 2025 Nielsen report. That means coffee shops in LA or restaurants in Indy or hair salons in Cleveland, all of which are places that Isaac played for. He played for a lot of different teams. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. I feel like, I'm in a family of trendsetters because my husband has never picked up a golf club, not not like seriously. Anyway, I think maybe one time we took a golf lesson, but I am the golfer of the family, which is very like roles reversal. And my mom actually had a full ride because she was a golfer in college. So golf runs deep through my veins. And I think men need to take a lot of notes from what Wells just said. Is like the typical, you go on social media, women are complaining, oh my God, my husband wants to golf today, yada, yada, yada. If you just invite the women into it, I'm sure they're going to be happy with like being involved into it. And then they're going to want to go golfing. All of a sudden you have a golf membership. You guys are belonging to a club. Like it's great. It just needs to be more of like a, I don't know. There's just such a story beyond the, oh, I'm going to go golfing, my wife's going to be mad type of thing. And that's where I'm like, even that will help the women be more interested in women golfers. Like there's a full picture there. But I'm glad that you brought up your wife, Wells, because you guys are both married men. How do your wives feel about the golf obsession?
Well, Wells just has done a great job of like bringing Sarah in and getting her excited about the lifestyle around golf. My wife is kind of the same way. I get a different excuse because golf is sort of my job, and I've worked in golf, I've done full swing, and now I work and I own a golf company that focuses on the sport, so I can kind of say it's all for work. But I've tried to do the same thing. I've tried to include her on trips. I've tried to make our club a home for her, and it's been kind of the same thing. Like she'll meet me after rounds, we'll have dinner. I mean, we have 3 kids, so that's been a huge thing too. Like the same kind of bringing them out, not forcing them to become golfers, but just like having them associate the club as a place that's like fun, and it's a family thing. It's not just them and their dad out there. It's like the mom is there too, and we'll just get a cart and drive out to the halfway house to get candy, like, and drive back. And that, we've been doing that since they were toddlers. And so for them, like just being out there, it's a positive experience. And, there's a nice pool, and we're part of the social life of the club. And so, that's been a huge boon for us. It was definitely harder, before I joined a private club, because the rounds are longer. It's not like, my wife was going to come out and meet me at the municipal bar and sit in there, so it does make it a bit easier for, to include your wife when you are at a private club. But I do think, she loves the resort golf too. Like that's the other thing, is we've sort of built it into trips when we've gone on vacation together, and, maybe we'll try to play like one round of golf, but then we'll bring her out and she'll play with, it's not a serious round. It's like just the 2 of us. And some of my favorite memories of us together have been like playing the golf while on vacation. And it's just so laid back and casual. It's like such a great like entree into the sport. And then it's like, yeah, well, all we were going to do is like sit by the pool anyway today. So let's go be outside and drive around and have a couple drinks and enjoy
Chad,
ourselves.
you're kind of influencing me because we actually have a trip coming up, and we're going to the Four Seasons in Cabo, and we get a free round of golf. And I was going to sit by the pool, but now I'm kind of influenced to go ahead and trail my husband. Well, I don't know why he's going because he doesn't really know how to golf, but that's a different story. But Chad, you and my husband are very similar in that my husband will tell me he's working out, and he's like, but it's for work. I'm like, that worked when you were in the NFL, but you're no longer in the NFL. So you can't say like you're going to work and you're just going to the gym. So I think that's hilarious.
I don't know how long that excuse is going to continue to work, but it seems to be working so far. But I do love it. Yeah, no, this is all for work. Oh yeah, no, I got to go on that golf trip. It's all relationship building. But
so are you guys?
But no,
also watching
I'm
golf
very
on
lucky.
TV?
I always, golf is a great like background thing to have on. So it's not as lean forward as like maybe the NFL is, So yeah, when sports are on for us, it's probably golf on the weekends, but also most of our weekends I'm like checking the score on my phone because I'm like running around with the kids. I mean, that is the one thing. So I've sort of made that deal with my wife where I pretty much never play on the weekends. So I kind of like, my time is like Friday afternoons. I sort of block off golf, and then I do get to play work golf. So I can excuse myself from work to play on like a Tuesday, but for the most part, like I don't play on the weekend. So I am like around, but that's more for the 3 kids, and to try to remain married is the goal. So, but we do actually, even on the weekend, spend a lot of time like at the club. We'll just go to the pool and we'll hang out and we'll drive out and get snacks at the snack shack.
Happy
and
wife, happy
the kids will
life.
hit balls. No question.
Another thing
Um,
that is a really good entryway for women into the game, I've found that taking your wife to a golf tournament, albeit sounding very boring, is a very, very fun experience, especially if you maybe splurge for like a wristband into kind of a nice tent that is catered with fun drinks and stuff. But there is really nothing more lovely than going out to like a nice golf course and just walking around with your significant other or with your kids. It's very fun. It's like very low stakes, and yeah, you know Sarah will. Well, we go to the Genesis, which is at Riviera every year, which is beautiful. Anyways, I grew up in Pebble Beach, so we go to the AT&T every year, which is beautiful to walk around. You know, you went to the Masters, which is like one of the coolest sporting experiences I've ever been to. And I've been to a Super Bowl and a World Series, Game 7, National Championship. And that was
mhm.
a thing that I thought was like one of the coolest things ever. And then to my surprise, my wife was like, that was the most fun we've had on an outing going to the Masters. Obviously, that's a tougher ticket to get, but that's a way to get, I think, the ladies into it. Be like, let's just go out, have a couple drinks, walk around, and then get the hell out of here. Go have a nice dinner afterwards. And you'll like win brownie points. And like if you're a big golfer, you can follow around the one guy you like or whatever, and it becomes like
Mhm.
a really lovely little date day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hand me a glass of Chardonnay, and I'm happy.
Oh yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned low stakes wells because I feel like going to like, getting organized and going to a baseball game or a football game or an NBA game or something, it's you kind of have to be in your seats and you're sort of locked in. And if you get up, you kind of feel like you're going to miss stuff. And, even if you're in like a suite or the boxes, it's still like everyone's watching the thing. But like going to a golf tournament's way more self-directed. And so it's like going on a walk and a picnic combined. And there also happens to be some sports playing. And so you might get to cheer. Someone hits a great shot. You're kind of part of the crowd. You get all of the beats of a pro sporting event, but in a much more like self-directed, unguided tour version of it. And it is really kid friendly. It is very wife friendly and wife approved. And again, you get to dress up. Like you might dress up to go to an NBA game or an NFL game, but probably not. Like you'll dress cute, but like you can really get dressed up to go to a PGA Tour or a LPGA Tour event.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize how fun it actually is to go to a golf tournament. It's crazy because the only golf tournament I've ever been to was the Masters, so it's a pretty intense one at that. But it's way more sociable than I thought because you're right. Like you can follow around your favorite golfer or you can sit at one of your favorite holes and just watch all of the golfers come. But there's so much idle time in between strokes and golfers, and you can go and get snacks, and it's way more of like a group activity than I originally thought. I brought my dad. He was great. We had a few glasses of Chardonnay, great time. But it is interesting because I feel like that's something you could do with a group of friends.
Yeah, and then to your point, I think that's also a bit why golf is such a great social sport in general. Is even not just watching it, but even playing it. There's lots of time to get to know people in between shots and riding in a cart together, and then the post round drink, and it's different from like pickup basketball or something like that. I think the only other activity that I found that's similar is maybe skiing with the group because it's a mix of like action and then waiting because you're on the lifts together and you get a chance to spend some time. But golf has that like inherent sociability built into it, which by the way is actually I think part of the reason why Full Swing like works as a show. Not to bring it back to Full Swing, but the golfers are all used to like talking to people their whole lives. And like if you're an elite golfer at 12 years old, like you're going to play with a lot of old men, and you're going to be like in foursomes and groups, and you get paired up with people, and you got to spend 4 hours with them, so you might as well be talking to them. And so like compared to a lot of other athletes from other sports, like golfers tend to be like pretty good conversationalists. Not all of them, but for the most part, like they are comfortable kind of making conversation, and they're surrounded by like bank executives and things like that. And so they tend to be pretty well spoken, which I found to make them like really great interviews because they actually like have something to say and they have some point of view, and they've seen a lot of humanity out there. So
It's funny. I'm like, if you have social anxiety, try going to a golf course because you are going to quickly find out you need to hold a conversation with a 70-year-old man about how his golf swing is, or if he looks good in the slacks that he's wearing, or yada yada. I think that's funny you say that because early on I was having conversations with all of my parents' friends just about golf and random life things, and it's so true. I have to ask, do you guys have a favorite golf course, and do you have a course that you want to play at?
Oh, Chad's
Take it,
gotten to
Wells.
play all of them, which is BS, man. I'm still trying to catch up. I think I got to play St. Andrews this year, which is the home of golf, and I got to play the old course, and it was like the closest thing to a religious experience that I think I've ever had while playing it. But I will say, because of my bias and nostalgia, that I think that Pebble Beach is the most beautiful golf course, and if I got to play Pebble every single day, it would be a good life lived. And I've instructed my wife that she needs to spread some of my ashes on either the 7 tee box or the 8 cliff. So yeah, those are and then I would love to play Augusta. Now Chad has gotten to do that, and so I'm hoping that if this podcast does nothing but gets me on Augusta, it will be worth it.
What makes a golf course good?
It's how it suits your eye for me.
The view.
And that's basically a way of saying that, like, to me, it's easier because it like suits my eye and like the way that my ball is shaped. But usually has to do with the surroundings. Like, I said Pebble Beach, I said St. Andrews, and I said Augusta. Those are probably the 3 most beautiful places like in the world, like, and also the people there. Like St. Andrews is a good example of that. Like all the people there like really made the experience so very, very cool. And like Chad was saying before, like you can feel the old ghosts of golf in that town. It's a really, really old town. And for all those things, the history is, I think, the thing that always is the thing that draws me back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to answer your question for me, I think, my favorite golf course I've ever played, it's hard to say Augusta because that's like what everybody says. That experience of playing Augusta, though, I think was the best experience of golf that I've ever played. The hospitality, being a guest there is really like nicer than any 5-star hotel or 3 Michelin starred restaurant, which I've been, lucky enough to go to a lot of those places. And it's just the absolute commitment to like making guests have the greatest experience ever, knowing that maybe it's the only time in their life they get to set foot on that property is like very special. I've never really experienced hospitality like that. But in terms of like the pure golf, I'm kind of with Wells. I love the old course at St. Andrews in Scotland. I've only played it once, and it was one of the few times that I walked off a golf course and immediately just like wanted to go back to the first hole and play it again, because it was just such a combination of like the history and the heritage, and it's just such a weird landscape too, so opposite of like American golf in terms of the grass is brown and the bunkers are hilly, and it just, the whole way it plays is so unique. So I thought it was really fun. In terms of American golf, close to Wells, my favorite place in the world is Cypress Point Golf Club, which is just down the street from Pebble Beach, and it's partly, again, I think it's a very exclusive club, so I'm lucky enough to have been invited out there to play it. But the whole, as a couple of famous holes, the sort of 15th, 16th, and 17th, they're kind of on this cliff, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and you get there for the first time, and it's honestly maybe the most beautiful place I've ever stood, like period. Like putting aside that there's a golf hole there, but it's just stunning. And I think the audacity that they had, whoever, when they built that course, the vision to see that landscape and be like, oh, let's put a golf course here. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever stood. And then you get to play golf on it, which is really, really special. So, I agree with Wells. Like a course that suits your eye is one that feels forgiving and it feels kind of like accessible and easy, but it still challenges you. And I think that, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of really great experiences, and some of them are at these ultra exclusive clubs. And those are unique because you feel the history and you kind of feel like you're tapping into something older, and that's really neat. But then also, you go to a place like Pebble Beach, which is a resort that you can go and pay and get on, and it is also spectacular. So tough to say. I've gotten a chance to play a lot of really cool places.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I'm gonna have to obviously expand my horizons when it comes to how many courses I'm playing at. But for me, it's always like I just want a good view. If I'm playing golf, I want a good view, and that's really all I care about. Pretty minimal when it comes to that. But before we wrap up, I do have to ask, one last question. Can you guys give a golf tip to somebody who is new to the sport of golf?
So my number one tip is to get the fundamentals right. And this is something that can get so easily overlooked because there's so much YouTube at golf advice, and you can get so hyper technical. But look, if it works for the best player in the world, then I think it's going to work for anybody who's picking up the sport. But Scotty Scheffler, to use an example, he's the number one player in the world. He really, when he practices before a big tournament, he's focused on his alignment, which is where his feet are and making sure that they're square, and he's focused on his grip. He has this molded grip that you could buy on the internet for $8 on a 7-iron, and he spends the majority of his time kind of getting his grip right. And so if you have the fundamentals right, if you're aligned square and your grip is good, you can do a lot right from that position. And I think where people get lost is they start to get overly technical, and golf can be infinitely technical in terms of like the way your angles and wrists and things like that. But ultimately, like, it's about you try to make an athletic move and you try to find a swing that suits your body type. And if you can get your focus off of the technical and onto the basic fundamentals and try to make golf a reaction thing as opposed to like a performance of a move that you have in your brain, it's all about kind of tricking that side of your brain to like letting the natural swing happen. And so I'm a big proponent of like basic fundamentals and trying to swing your swing. So for me, I'm always thinking about like my grip and my stance, and then little things like tempo, just repeating a mantra in my head of swing, set, move, swing, set, move. And that's kind of the way I do it. I don't know, Wells, what do you got?
Well, the question is for someone that's starting out in golf. And so I agree with Chad. I have that alignment thing on one of my clubs, and I try to do that to make sure my grip is right. But for someone that's starting out in golf, I think that one of the things is that a lot of people get really embarrassed or nervous to play with other golfers who might be good. And as someone who's like a relatively good golfer, I could care less how good or bad you are if we go out and play. The only thing that I want you to do is, if you're going to be bad, just play bad fast, because I just don't want to be sitting around waiting for you hitting a million shots. If you've hit it 7 times on the hole, it's okay to just pick it up and be like, you guys finish it, I'm going to go to the next. Just make sure you're playing fast, and then if you do that, then everyone will enjoy playing with you because you're not slowing them down, and you're not slowing the groups behind you down, and you're not, there's really nothing worse. And if you ask a lot of these tour pros, what's the most annoying thing for you, they will almost all say slow play. And that's something that I think that if you're just starting out in golf, it's okay to be bad. Just be bad fast.
I love that. Honestly, I'm gonna remember that for when I'm playing with a group of people, and because I know how well I play, and it's not very well. Okay, well, before we end, I just have some rapid fire questions, quick this or that, and then we'll wrap up. Walking the course or riding in a golf cart?
All right, Chad, you go first, then I'll go. Okay.
Walking.
Interesting. Early morning tea time or late afternoon?
Oh,
early morning.
Yeah, dew sweeping is fun, but there is something quite nice about having a nice cocktail and jamming out to beat the sun.
That kind of answers my next question, because it's ordering a drink on the course or ordering a hot dog.
Oh, drink, definitely.
Why can't I do both? I don't understand.
You can definitely. What drink are you ordering?
I like a transfusion.
Yeah, it depends for me. I try to drink beer on the course because I won't get over my skis if I have too many of them. But I do enjoy a transfusion as well.
Golf outfit, bright colors or neutral tones?
Ooh, neutral tones these days.
Yeah, I'm the same, but I like the heritage look. So pleated pants and a lot of cashmeres.
Classic. And last but not least, trash talking on the course, yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
100%. That's kind of part of it.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can the listeners find you?
You could follow me on everything. I'm at Chad Mumm, ChadMumm, and our show is the Vanity Index podcast. We are the at Vanity Index Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, things like that. Wells, what about you?
Yep, at Wells Adams and all the social medias. And yeah, go listen to if you like golf and like if you're a golf nut like us, then please go listen to the Vanity Index podcast. I think you'll enjoy it. We've got some amazing guests. I mean, you mentioned Charlie Day. We had Dexter Fowler on recently. Just a lot of celebrities coming on, athletes and celebrities that have a very, very interesting take on golf and who are all golf sickos like us. And I think that if you are like that, then you are welcome to come hang out with us in the VIP lounge.
I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of Sunday Sports Club. Be sure to tune in every Sunday for the podcast.
Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. Individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in this episode.